Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bomb Draft and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa. With me, I have my very good friend, Earl Goddard. Hello, Earl.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Let's continue pretending, like I say every time, that we haven't been talking for the last half an hour. I'm good. And with us, we have my very good friend, Suellio Almeida. Hello, Suellio. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Pedro. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to do interviews like that. For me, they don't even feel like interviews. It's just like, let's sit down here and chat and have a beer. So, do you have your beer there?
Oh, no, I have no beer with me. I have some alcohol, really ethylic alcohol. I really shouldn't show the brand, but yeah. But that's for cleaning stuff. But no beverages today are actually. So I should have thought about that. So yeah, today is good.
I'm a sim racing water here. So.
Oh, I usually drink water out of this bad boy right here, which is actually Oktoberfest mug.
Oh, nice.
But no water today. I should have thought about that. And you, Earl, do you have your trusty whiskey with you? Or just some tea?
Just a cup of tea. Cup of tea today.
Weak.
Being sensible.
Being sensible for once. So yeah, today it's going to be a podcast all about Mr. Suellio Almeida, who I actually knew from Twitch. I think I found you on Twitch. I think it was on Twitch. Yeah, most likely on Twitch. And from there, I started basically making fun of him and his driving, and which was basically a wishful that I just wished that I could do half of the stuff that he does with a wheel, and it was basically out of jealousy. And the connection that he's Brazilian and talks Portuguese, it's always nice. Always nice.
And you also helped me solder a cube control cable.
Oh, that was...
and I failed. And I had to buy a new one.
Yeah, you bought a new one anyway. So yeah, that's we can actually start there before talking about your shuttle and all that stuff. Yeah, Suellio actually had a cube controls. Yeah, it was a cube controls, and the main failing part on those wheels, it's the cable. The USB cable and the thing that's attaches to the back of the wheel. And I just told him, do you want me to teach you how to solder that? I was like, yeah, let's go. I'll buy some shit and do that. And it was me actually.
It was a great learning experience. I can say that it was a great learning experience because it was the first time ever I tried to solder anything. And honestly, I think if I tried to do something again now, I would have a bump start already, I would know at least something before having to learn it again.
Yeah, it's one of those things that most people are afraid of doing, but it's really not that hard. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I mean, I have a few stuff I've built my own wheels and stuff like that, and actually we're going to talk about music, of course, because you are a musician as well. So yeah, I have some guitar pedals built by me. That's...
Wow.
Yeah, music was where it all started. So I actually hatched some circuit boards all by myself at my house with that... What's it called? I don't know what it's called in English. It's like a liquid that just takes copper out. Yeah, that was... very good experience a very long time ago, 10 years ago or more than that. So yeah, that was good. Okay, and I tried to teach you how to do it and failed miserably.
No, I learned a lot of stuff. It's just that I had one chance.
And you just bought another cable and another wheel And actually, you're using. Yeah, we're going to get that. I was actually trying to think what you were using right now, but now I know what you're using, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So, yeah, can you just tell us, like, where are you from and what's kind of your background?
So, I am from Brazil. I lived there on my hometown, kind of a small town, until 21. I was doing engineering back there, civil engineering. I've done that for like 3 years, and then I figured out that I didn't really want to live like such a normal life, like in the comfort of my hometown, with the support of like with my parents, everyone. I was like, no, I want to go somewhere else. I want to try something new. Like I was already playing music back then. I was like, let's just do like something different. So I decided to do piano, and I decided to start a bachelor's degree in piano. So I moved to a big city, Rio de Janeiro. So that one, I lived there for 5 years, and that's more or less when I started doing some sim racing as a hobby, like just to relax a little bit from the 5, 6, 7 hours of piano that I was doing daily there. So it was lots and lots of piano practice. And then at the end of the day, I would just drive for fun, and ended up like finding leagues and stuff. So it kind of became a serious hobby there because I'm a competitive person. And then 5 years later, I decided to move to Canada to do my master's degree in piano, where I am until today. So I finished my master's in 2022, or actually in January of 2022. So it's been more than a year, actually, that I finished my master's degree. And since then, I have been working as a motorsports creator, influencer, communicator, coach, and on my the little time that I get left, I try to practice or to stream. So yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know I would not have time to practice when I started doing all these things. But yeah, today I have to wake up in the morning and decide: am I going to edit a YouTube video or practice or write my book or do the podcast? No, I won't have time for all of these things. So I have to choose one every day.
Yeah, I actually remember the day that you basically told me, yeah, I'm finishing, and you started streaming a little bit of practice on Twitch, and I was like, yeah, more of that, and you were like, yeah, I'm going to finish my master's degrees, and then I can stream every day, and then, yeah.
And then I disappeared, because, that's the thing, like, it's insane, right? Like, when you have 2 hours a day to practice, you do that. But when you have 10, you find other things to do that are related to motorsport, but are not practice. I mean, that's me, because I can't do just one thing. I can't. I want to do 3, 4, 5, 6 different things in a day. Otherwise, I get bored. Like, for me, honestly, it's boring to do 500 laps. I do it out of commitment and to honor my team, or to honor the people I'm representing in an event. I'm practicing for them. When it's time to get those like 210s, I would enjoy more of my time having more fun and doing different combos and streaming and talking to chat and writing stuff and teaching, like a little bit of everything. It's really honestly, I think it's a lot of commitment to get those 30 hours, 40 hours a week that these drivers, most of the best drivers, do. It's amazing. It's a lot of commitment. So think twice when you're like, oh, I wish I could have 10 hours a day to practice. No, on your third hour, you don't want to practice anymore. And then it's like, but I have to find a 10th. So
you do it like me and Earl. We go to practice something, and then we just end up doing carburetor carpet in iRacing. Just getting wrecked.
Exactly.
Anything but what we thought we'd be doing.
Yeah. Basically that. So but how did more competitive sim racing experience started? Basically.
It started with Brazilian leagues, And honestly, I do notice, and I really encourage everyone who's starting to do leagues. I do notice that leagues are just the best environment possible for you to improve, having faster people around and try to learn with them. So basically, I went to iRacing, and that's the best thing, because I was doing Assetto Corsa for fun. And then like I had two friends, and they were like, oh, there's this bigger WhatsApp group where they do races like with themselves. Like they organize a championship. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like back then I was only doing open lobbies, and it was like a total mess. It is still a total mess when you go to open lobbies in ACC or AC. And then they organized a championship. For me, I didn't even think about the word league. It was just a championship, a friends club championship. I went for it, and then they decided to do broadcasting. Like it was like, wow, this is super cool, super organized. There's like 25 people involved. So that sensation, it like having that day, Thursday nights, we're gonna do this race. Everyone is gonna be there. Everyone is practicing for that, and we're gonna be able to watch the broadcast after, like people talking about our names and like the TV. So for me, all that was just this wonderful environment. And this was in the AC. So I did 1 year of this league in AC, and because there were some really fast drivers there, that really encouraged me to figure out a way, like how can they be so fast? Like it's not like I just did not accept that they were faster. And I started learning. I started like studying, watching YouTube videos. I think there was a channel called Viper GT, I think. It's like a very old YouTube channel where they explains like setups and stuff. And I was consuming all sorts of content like that. I just wanted it to go quicker. So I spent that year trying to go quicker. And by the end of the year, I was already competing with the fastest guys and getting some podiums here and there, and collecting opportunities, right? You know, so you're always there P3, P4, and just expecting one of the fast guys to wreck so you can like win the races. So I got some wins like that. Of course, you want to win because you're faster, not because the guy ahead is crashing. But when you're starting, you need to even to get there on the P4, P3 situation is already like a win. It was already a win for me. And then as soon as that league finished, some of these guys built a team and went to this very expensive simulator service called iRacing. It was like, oh my God, we're going to do like
iRacing.
And it was like this huge, I don't know, for me, it was something like out of this world. And then I decided to do the investment. And I remember like the team already there, they had like a 4K iRating driver. For me, it was like my idol. You're like, this guy is like top 2% in the world and like something like that. And then I got in iRacing with this mentality. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to fuck up. I want to know exactly what is the fastest and most efficient way to become competitive in this simulator. So I always practiced with that guy, with the 4K guy. And he was like teaching me what I was doing wrong, and I was learning how to set it up. And I remember to this day, like the first combo I ever drove was MX5 at Okayama. And I remember like just seeing all onboards on YouTube, all lap guides, everything, and then getting a notebook and writing down the number of the corner, the characteristics of the corner, what gear, what to do. Like I was writing down all that before I even drove on the track because I did not want to create bad habits. I was afraid of driving because I wanted to start the right way. And then after like, I don't know, 3 hours doing that, I finally decided to go for it. And, you know, I got like a good head start, you know, I got the right mentality in iRacing. So within like a month, I was already 2000 iRating because I knew exactly what to go for. And I never regret that. And it all started, of course, in leagues, because as soon as I went to iRacing, I already had a league in mind. I went to iRacing to participate in a league. It was not like people do the other way around. They go to iRacing, then they figure out that there's a league. for me, no, there is this event here. And in order to participate, I have to start iRacing. So that's what I did.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Completely different to mine, but I've been sim racing for a long time, as you see from my gray hair. And I started really early. So, yeah, and so basically iRacing was just because you went with your friends. So you were not, let's say you didn't know all of these different sims, and the basically wars that are between them. And it's actually kind of funny talking this now, because we have this big talking point that everyone has been talking with Max, and all of the good and bads from every sim. But you were basically taken from your friends were taking you where you went to, basically, and where you are right now, because you're still mainly an iRacer, for lack of a better term. Yeah,
100%.
That's interesting, because the first time that I came to iRacing, I knew no one. I realized that a few years later that I confused it for another sim that was in the making for like 10 years already, and it's still to this day hasn't come out.
Oh my god.
I think
Which
the website
one?
is up. I don't remember. It's like, I don't know, World of Stream Racing, something like that. It had a Lotus. I think it was the Lotus. What's the one that's the really old one that it's on racing? The Lotus
49 or 79?
49, yeah, the 49. I think it had a few, and then it had the one after that had the nose with the wing, that it was all basically the same one piece. I don't know which Lotus was that. The one that Emerson Fittipaldi won. He won a couple of races in a Lotus, I think, when he was back at Lotus, and then he won at McLaren.
Wasn't
right?
that the 79 though?
I think Fittipaldi was a 70 now, wasn't it?
No. 79 was
79.
Senna's car, right? No. Oh, I'm
drinking
messing
the cleaning products.
Oh, shit. I actually don't know, because did Emerson win any championships with Lotus? Because he won with McLaren, but he has two. I don't know. This is actually
Not sure. That's all.
not sure. Someone in chat, if someone in chat knows, and we might have a few Brazilians in there chatting. If anyone knows, you can give us a little bit of light on that. Okay, I'm not going to answer chat. Those. So yeah, and I actually confused it for another one, and I actually basically bought 1 year. 1 year of subscription. This is when 2010. So a long time ago. And
God,
that was my
2010.
first account on iRacing. That's how I kind of found it, and basically drove the old Mazda for almost a year, and bought the roof, the RUF, that's basically going out of commission now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm one of the first ones, but a pretty bad iRacer nonetheless. So yeah, and from there, and from the leagues and starting and all of that, how did you then progress into basically turned pro and won? It was the Porsche Cup, right? Because I kind of remember, yeah, leagues, everything was leagues until then.
Dude, leagues and teams. It's the community part of it that makes that gives you that energy. If you're like there are some exceptions, people who have been driving alone for like 2 years before they started doing officials and stuff. You hear stories like that, but mostly, and what I see like really encourages like my students who progress the most are the ones who have a deadline. There's this race on Saturday. Like it gets serious. If you're just doing officials and you race whenever you want, it just does not trigger that
focus,
getting in your head sensation that a league gives you. I actually was thinking, and I will do that eventually. My road to 9K, if I ever get to 9K, I'm going to do a video on YouTube about like every K, like what I did from 1K to 2K to 3K to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. I remember everything. I remember what I was driving, the year, the month, and what I learned. What was the technique that I developed that pushed me from 4 to 5. And then from 5 to 7, because it was a jump. It was from 5 to 7, and then from 7 to 8, and then back to 6, and now up to 8 again, and like trying to go to 9. So, for example, I did MX5 League, so that's 3 months in IRB. It's a Brazilian league, it's pretty much the biggest one there. It has the best drivers. I was able to compete with drivers like Eduardo Barrichello, like Rubens Barrichello's son there. I was able to race against Felipe Drogovic, who is like racing for Aston Martin right now in Formula 1, Sergio Sete Câmara, Jeff Giassi, like Gustavo Ariel. I remember when Gustavo Ariel was 6K and I was also 6K, and we were fighting and we had the same pace. I would never expect that guy would become like 10 points whatever K today. And I also did not expect that we would be teammates right now. Anyways, so leagues, man. That's the thing. That's the thing. For me, I was always practicing with someone for a league, and that's what drove me during all these years.
Yeah, it's kind of a good point. Because it's that focus, but at least for me, I'm still nowhere near where I want to be in terms of iRating, but I don't really stress about it. But I really took a jump, like I was basically at 2K, and I started to get up more iRating, where now if it wasn't for a little thing called GT3s in the summer, I would probably be more than 3K right now. But I just I basically decided to go to the cars that I like the least, let's say, not hate. It's not hate, it's like the least. And I decided to do all of because I do the dollars thing to get that participation fee that they give us, and I did it, and I completely lost motivation, and I went from almost 2.6K to like 1.6 in 1 month. So it was like big drop. And then I started to come up again, and the thing that I did was race less, race what I like, and just have fun. And in like 3 weeks, I was already like 2.3, 2.4K again, just from driving F3. Let's say I like the F3, I like prototypes, I like all that stuff. So yeah, it was.
You like the fast stuff.
Oh yeah.
The agile stuff.
Oh, and I like open wheelers. Let's face it. It's just a dynamite thing to do in iRacing, to lose safety rating and iRating. Sometimes when you do it wrong. But yeah, it's kind of different, Earl, because you come from a background where you can't really practice in real life. You just go to the weekend, and of course you focus on doing better, because you the only time you have to practice is at the track when you get to practice session.
Yeah, it's sort of in the lower formulas, you'll get a midweek test day maybe before you get to the race weekend. So you get your couple hours and that's it. But much like Suellio was saying, it's more about you don't get to do 300 laps. You get to do, if you're lucky, 30 in a session. maybe 50. So you've got to really condense everything down to, before you get there, where do I think I'm going to struggle? Where should I focus on? So you go in with a plan of attack and just hope you don't have any incidents that put you on the back foot. But yeah, you don't. And then as you get higher up and the cars get faster and more expensive, you get even less time in them because they're so expensive to run.
And it's certainly...
It's funny because...
Yeah, you go on.
Right now that I'm driving in real life, I remember my first... Well, I remember the entirety of the year, what I was thinking about, how the car felt and what I did on the test days and everything. And I already knew what to look for. I knew how to describe what was happening with the car, what I wanted, what the car wanted from me and everything. And the conversations with the team were very productive, but I do owe all of that to sim racing. So I can imagine how difficult it is to get into a race car in real life without the sim racing background and have to learn so many techniques that I've learned through 10,000 laps without that background, like in real life. Like I think that's why that's why people talk so much about talent and gifts in real motorsports, because you don't have many shots. If you develop bad habits initially, you will never even notice that they were bad habits because you don't have the track time. But if you're lucky, or if you get the right start, the right coaches, the right background, and you develop the right technique early, then people will call you talented because you're gonna build up upon that correct technique. So it's cruel, man. Motorsports,
yeah, it's definitely having the right team around you. If you can get, especially in the small stuff, Formula Ford's, the entry level stuff, if you get the right team, the right driver, coach, engineer, and even down to the right mechanic who's just, you're never going to have a mechanical. You get all of those in place and you're straight away ahead of everyone else before you've even hit the track.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy.
And like you say, you get one shot at it. You don't... It's especially now, because with so many people coming with a sim racing background and the teams know it, and just everyone has simulators these days, the teams themselves, they're like, well, you should be prepared. You don't need to learn a circuit anymore. You'd get given like 10 laps to learn a circuit. It was sort of like a thing of like, yeah, okay, you don't quite know the track yet, so we'll give you a few more laps. And it was sort of unwritten rule that you had 10 laps that's it. You now know the track. So you had 10 laps to work out your brake points, turn-ins, everything. And then they were like, okay, you should be on pace now. Why aren't you on pace?
What's your problem?
It's very difficult where you don't just get a 1x if you go wide and you hit a barrier and destroy a car.
Oh my God.
But yeah, now. So yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. Like I remember Raikkonen talking, getting this question of how much time does he need to know the track and know the braking points and all that stuff. And he's just told, yeah, normally if it's a track that I don't really know, it's two laps and I kind of know what I'm doing. And I was like, what? 2 laps?
Yeah, but Kimmy's special.
Kimmy's special, yeah.
Kimmy's special, just all over.
Just 2 laps and then I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, we need Sebastian Vettel to do the impression. So yeah, that was always kind of...
It's the same as like this story of Jensen when he first drove a Formula 1 car, which was the Prost, and I think it was in Barcelona. And apparently Alain came out onto the pit wall and they went, oh, who's that in the car? Is that, they said in the base lap for Jensen? And they went, no, that's Jensen. and because he was the only car on track, you could hear every gear shift, every downshift, hear everything on the good old days of noisy cars, and it just was perfect. And that was his first time ever, and that's why he got that start. You know, if he had made a mistake then, it would have been game over, or not game over, but it would have been a very severe check against his name.
Yeah, because he actually went straight to
Williams,
but then to Renault.
Yeah, because that was off the back of that test. Yeah, it was off the back of that test that Prost couldn't take him, so he said to Frank, "Yeah, you need to take this kid."
Yeah, and Kimi is actually about the same thing. He did that famous test with Sauber, and then just like. Yeah.
And Michael said, hold on to him.
Michael heard him, and who's that kid? Yeah. Yeah, there's many stories like that. Actually, about Rubens as well. There's a few stories like that he showed like to be very special when he started. That's actually why many people called him like the next Senna or something like that. We all know what happened. Ferrari. No, nothing. But yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But in the sim, we can like do as many laps as we. Max actually talks about that in an interview with David Coulthard, I think, when he won last year the championship, and he just said, "Yeah, for sim racing, I need to do like for one event, I need to do like 60 to 70 hours of practice just for." Like say Bathurst 12 hours or something like that, and more than his teammates, because the rest of the guys just do sim racing, and he has to catch up to them. And he is not really I know he has the name on the side of the door, but for himself, it doesn't think that he's the benchmark on the team, and let's face it, because he isn't. So if Max needs time to practice and needs to practice more than his teammates, we really need to practice, and we don't practice.
But that's the thing, right? Like in the real life, if you get 2/10 slower than perfection, you are already very competitive, because everyone else also has that limitation of track time. So it's pretty much how close you get to perfection, and you're 2-3 tenths off that's good enough. In sim racing, everyone will be doing 20, 30, 40, 50 hours more to not only perfect like the lines and the driving, but also find the behavior of the tire model that is specific to that simulator, find exploits, find the best way to warm up the tires. So there are so many details that people keep looking for. Okay, I'm going to try a qualifying lap without warming up the tires. Now with warming up the tires. Now without warming up the tires in the beginning, but warming up the tires at the end of the out lap. Yeah, there's so many possible combinations that time becomes a very important factor in all this. Time is one of the most important factors in preparation. Of course, a well-used time, but when you get to the top level where everyone is like very similarly fast, the preparation time makes a big difference.
Yeah, and we kind of had that in Formula 1 this year, because in the beginning of the year, nobody knew what to do with these new tires and warming up the tires for qualifying. And it's kind of interesting, because we kind of had that kind of thing going on, and some teams figuring it out, and some teams like Mercedes didn't figure it out for a long time, and then
6 months.
Yeah, it's 12 months, more like it. But then we have, in real life, we have more variables. You have less time to prepare and less opportunities to prepare, but you have more variables, because let's say in iRacing so far we have just one set of tires. We don't have in the F1 car you have all the four tires, but you have
IndyCar, you've got the alt.
Yeah, you have the
primary and the alternate.
Yeah, but it's not like in real life that you really have completely different cars. Like there's 10 Formula 1 cars, and they are all, and let's say there's 20, because the cars are different from one another, and we're not just talking about Red Bull giving a better car to Max. We're not talking about that, but there's tolerances between the parts. In the sim, there's not tolerances between parts.
Yeah. And setups. Different setups, how they affect the tyre warm-up, how they affect every aspect of it.
And not just take the tire pressures to minimum and leave it like that.
Yeah, tire pressures to minimum, camber to minimum.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just disconnect the rear bar, you're good to go.
Yep.
And we were talking with a setup, basically, setup wizard, let's call you. Do you do any setup work these days? Because you used to do the packs, but... And honestly, you helped me a lot in the FPAC championship, not this year, last year, when we actually had interesting cars.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. But I think setup work is also included in the time bottlenecked category. You have to have time. Of course, you have to read. I remember being in a plane for 9 hours traveling for a music festival, and I devoured that Tune to Win book by Carol Smith. And I learned so much when on the way back from the trip. I just tried so much, so many things, and they were actually working in sim racing, and some things were working the other way around. So I was I still needed a lot of time. When I was champion for the first time in the Formula 3 overall season in iRacing, I was around 4K iRating, 4.5. I would spend 5 hours in one day just trying set up things and trying. So it's a time limited thing. If you don't have the time, it won't happen. It won't work. So in that case, I was so obsessed about finding the fast setup, because I remember back then I did not trail brake that well. I did not trail brake at all. And I was trying to beat Max Verstappen's lap time in Brands Hatch. And he had because he did iRacing back then. And in order to beat that time, I had to find so many bugs in the setup. I had to find, I was one of the first guys to find negative toe in iRacing. It was 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, where everyone says, no, you should not use negative toe. And I figured out that the Formula 3 was actually faster with the negative toe. And, but I had to try all these things, just trying, and that requires so much time. But I was so obsessed that I figured out the best behaviors and started writing down how the car behaved and everything, and then they would release the update and I would have to do it all again. But that's the thing. Back then I was obsessed with it. Nowadays I would not say I am a good setup builder. I think if we're preparing for a 24-hour event and I want to try something in the setup, I will have credibility, and I would trust my own knowledge, and okay, I think if we change this and that would work. But if I would sell setups for Major's Garage again, for example, I would have to work a lot to regain the understanding of the current tire model before I would really deliver top setups.
Yeah, and it's actually very different. The latest one, it's crazy. It changed everything. It's all upside down. And
yeah, exactly.
I did 24 hours of Daytona this weekend. No, it didn't go very well because... No, but it's crazy. I really felt like we were a real life motorsports team, because my brother even had to come to my house with his PC so that I could format his PC so it worked properly, because it got disconnected because the PC just farted out, basically. And we had another more 2 or 3 disconnects just because of the internet of one of the team members. So it's that hardware thing that we don't really think about in sim racing. We just think about crashes, basically, because actually in the P2 we used to have like engine problems, like with the bumps and all that stuff when you abuse it. Yeah, at Le Mans. I've heard a few guys having blown up engines just because of the way they attacked the last 2 chicanes on 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it would damage the floor.
It was, and damage floor. It's in the new hypercar, the LMDH, the BMW. It's crazy, and it doesn't show up as optional repairs. And you are like 5Ks.
Because it is not option, right? You would have to like tear the car apart to save it.
Yeah, but it's so frustrating because you damage the floor and you're like 5Ks down on speed on the straights, and you don't know why, and you see the lap time just coming down, and then you go to pit and you have nothing, no repairs at all. Car is fine. Oh man, it's just. I don't have the button box like you, but just fuck off. I don't care. Yeah, basically that. I actually could do that because I have a thing, but I didn't turn it on. But yeah, it's because it's different. Real life and the sim, it's one thing trying to emulate another, but you have a different set of problems. You don't really have internet problems in real life. I mean, telemetry could mess you up these days in Formula 1 if you didn't have telemetry. But apart from that,
everything's got telemetry.
Yeah, nowadays everything's got telemetry. They even...
There's the physical aspect as well that comes real life that you don't have in this. Yes, you can turn your force feed up to 10.
Like me and Suellio do.
Yeah. And you can
11.
have a bit of a hot box.
Yeah.
But there's something about G-forces that you can't replicate, which does change just every aspect of driving.
At this point, honestly, it depends a lot on what you're looking for, but in terms of competition, people got serious enough in sim racing to a point where it doesn't matter anymore. Like, people don't care that you don't have the G-forces. People want to win. People want to beat the guys from the other team, and people want to get the prize. You know, it's interesting how. And I'm okay. So this is the driver coach saying, like, speaking here, because a lot of people who go for the immersion, but the guys who want to win the competition, they do even silly things to win, like the Williams guy who did the qualifying on the apron, like with the LMDH. Of course, that needed to be discussed because he was doing something that he was not supposed to. But what I'm saying is, the lack of G-force becomes like irrelevant because it lacks for everyone. Like, and now everyone has this baseline, this equal baseline to compete in, and the factors that affect that environment are gonna matter. And the guys who want to get at the top will focus all their energy on that. So I think even like you probably will see like Max won't complain that there isn't the G-force and it changes everything for him. He goes there and adapts. It's like what I'm saying here is sim racing almost ceased to try to emulate real racing in terms of competition. It has become a thing of its own that prepares people to real life racing. But there are like if you I see a lot of people saying, no, I won't do that in the sim because I would not do that in real life. Well, yeah, but if you want to win, you have to do that outlap slow. You have to do that because that's affecting like that competition right there. So again, I like remembering that maybe in the future it's going to be a little bit more, even more realistic. It is realistic in 99% of the things, but there are some things that just won't happen and will remain just sim racing.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyways, I kind of lost my point. I just wanted to say that sim racing has become a thing of its own, in a way.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. I think the prep you put in for races is the same. Everything about it is the same. There's obviously, say, the only variables that you get in real life that you don't get in the sim are how people react to G-forces, example, and everyone's different. So some people will struggle later in a race, some people won't, and just due to fitness levels where obviously we don't have that in sims. But yeah, totally agree. Sim racing, you can't say, oh, I wouldn't do that because you don't do that in real life, because like you say, you're never going to compete because you have to play to the rules that everyone's playing to.
Oh my god, you just reminded me of one race that I did in real life last year. It was 35 degrees Celsius outside and it was 65 inside the car. Nice. So in the pre-grid, my GoPros died. All three. And they died in order, like beep, 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 beep. And I was like, okay, and I was there inside the car, like boiling with my racing suit and everything. And I had to do the entire race like that. And it was a street circuit, so the wind was not present. Like it was just walls everywhere. It was a difficult experience that, like here, at least in Montreal, like I'm racing, I get a little bit hot, I just open the window. It's minus 20 outside, so like it's like a natural air conditioner, so like I can just keep like the right temperature. But in real life, oh my god.
Yeah, and about that, I have a thing. I might be the only one, and you kind of had a situation, let's call it this year, with some other sim racing content creator. Let's say it. If you don't
I met him in the event in person.
I saw.
Yeah, I actually took a picture. I asked someone to take a picture of me coaching him without him noticing.
It was amazing. So, and about, actually a little bit about his point, I actually get more into it, and I think I perform a little bit better, and this is talking in the sim, when I'm kind of a little bit hot and sweaty and kind of fighting. I don't know, if in my case it kind of focuses me on the driving and makes me not think about where everything is around me and where I am, because it kind of gets me in the zone. But how are you guys? Do you really like to just be as comfortable as... And I'm talking about that because I don't want my seat to be uncomfortable. That's the best thing that I did, was build a proper sim and being in the correct position that I liked. And I spent hours on that. But actually the temperature and all that stuff, how do you guys like that to be?
I want a setup that allows me to drive for 10 hours non-stop. And if I'm thinking, oh, I'm sweating and my back is sticking like to the seat, that's thought process. That's energy that's being stolen from the sim to something else. So for me, I need to be in a state where I don't think about anything else. You know, like when you're not sick, you don't think about it. It's like, oh, I'm feeling so good today. I'm feeling well. I don't feel my headache. I don't feel... No, you won't spend the day listing everything that you don't have. So for me, that's the idea. I want to be in an environment where I don't think about anything. I just think about that. Like, for example, I don't know, like if I'm like even on the straight line, you already start thinking about something, right? Like, but if you set up a place where you don't feel anything, okay, your foot doesn't sweat, or it's not too hot, or the way the wind is, or like the light on your, anything that distracts you should be removed. Like you have to create this environment of full focus so you can really, really, really efficiently use your brain to learn and to practice. So temperature definitely gets into like that situation.
AC just on. Perfect.
Yeah.
And what is the perfect temperature for sim racing? I was joking.
23.2 degrees.
19.
And you, Earl, of course, coming from real life, you don't really have an option. I think you kind of have, like in modern prototypes, I think it's AC is mandatory, but I've heard that it doesn't work that well.
I have a story regarding that. Actually, I won't say the name of the person, but a person was driving a McLaren GT4 in Europe, and the team said that they had to use the AC on. They had to have the AC on in the car because they built the car in a way where it compensates the power that is drained from the engine to the AC. They actually generate a little bit more power to the engine to compensate. But when you actually turn on the AC, the power that is given to the engine to compensate that is bigger than the power that the AC is draining. So the car goes quicker if you have your AC on.
Oh, that's interesting.
GT4 hack.
You have to use your AC. You have to be comfortable. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's maybe because in the rules probably you are allowed to compensate with a little bit more power in the engine for the AC, and they just... Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's probably they're probably talking about like 1 or 2 HP, but still.
Oh, it's...
Everything counts.
Everything counts.
Yeah.
So in you, Earl, do you have your AC just on, or it's just your beverage?
No, I just open a window. But the cars I drove never had AC in them or anything like that. They either open wheelers or old Group C cars where there was nothing. So most of those races with the sports cars, you were 50-degree cockpits before you got in them, and it is what it is. You just deal with it and sweat. I remember getting in cars and not having a drinks bottle. So yeah, it was a different time.
Oh, we still have it. I remember doing an endurance race with my FRS, and the adrenaline makes like wonders, right? So I did not feel it. I was racing and everything. Oh, no, wait. 2 situations. One was in that same place where my GoPros died. It was 65 outside. I was racing. I did not feel it because I was racing. The adrenaline was there. As soon as I saw the checkered flag, I felt like I was gonna pass out. As soon as I saw the checkered flag and I relaxed, the adrenaline went away, and I was like, ugh. And as soon as I figured out, okay, I might actually like faint here, I went to the pits and to the radio and said, okay, I need water right now. I need water. And the guy said, okay, then don't go to the paddock, go to the pits, and we're going to bring water to you before. So I went there and they ran with water. They threw water on my face and gave me some water. And it was so good on my side. Then I went to the paddock and my teammate was having big, like problems getting out of the car because he was also passing out. So his dad had to pull him out of the car because he was not able to get out of the car. It was that hot.
Yeah. Do you... I mean, we're kind of jumping around all over the place, but I don't think people will mind that much. So you're racing... last year you started racing in in a Toyota AE86. It's the AE86. Yep. Yeah.
GT86.
GT86. Oh, okay. GT86. Yeah, AE86 is the old one. Okay. And how was that to go from sim racing and basically knowing how it all goes on, and you have a plan? Of course, from years of sim racing, you must always have a plan on how to do stuff, and then going to real life and have to kind of get to grips with the lack of practice and all that stuff.
It took time. It took time because when we're driving at a high level, we are not actively thinking about everything. We're thinking about some things. We're thinking about 2 or 3 things, but we're actually doing 25 on automatic. The way we release the brakes, the way we correct, the way we upshift, the way everything we do in the lines, and like we are thinking about 5% of all that. Actively thinking about all that. In real life, as soon as I started driving, I felt so many new things: the G-forces, the wheel force, the pedal feel, the throttle feel, all that. Like the vision, the real FOV, like all those things were new. So I had to spend so much time processing that, because imagine I have a super stiff pedal here with 80 kilos of force, and the car I was driving was a production car that was transformed into a race car. So it had ABS and stock brakes. So it was super light, super easy to reach the ABS. So I was braking what it would feel like 50% or no, 20% of what I would brake in my sim. And in my head would be thrown like immediately, because the car was just on threshold braking already. So all those little like automatic things were happening because of my muscular memory in the sim. So I was driving like shit. Like I was really stopping, and then like I was feeling weird, and like it took a lot of time. It took me 3, 4, 5 test days and track days before I really started creating that adapted muscular memory to be able to compete, not even to compete well. And then after that, I still needed around 10 races over the course of 3-4 months before I really felt comfortable. I remember on my penultimate round, I was really frustrated because I was not competing well. I was not on the limit. I was afraid. I was feeling the pressure. I was not delivering. And then I sent a message to Jamie Broadbent and asked him, "Hey, Jamie, like, how much time did you need in real life to become competitive?" Because he did the Praga thing in 1 year and was like at the back of the pack. He never got like any good results. But then on the second year, he became champion. So I asked him like, what happened there? He said, just drive for 1 year. 1 year is all you need as a sim racer to become a real racer. And towards the end of the season, I saw that transformation slowly. Like, it's like a new rig. Okay, it's like going to someone's house and drive on their sim. You're going to drive like shit until you adapt to their sim. So it's like that developing that skill to adapt very quickly to different sims is kind of a similar thing to adapting to a real car.
That's interesting. Never thought about it like that. My next question was going to be one, but I think it's more towards Earl, and how is it? Because that's the GT86. It's basically the only car in real life that you raced, really. It was the only one, but I'm now thinking about different cars, let's say, in real life. Is it kind of the same process, or once you're like in tune with I mean, you started driving in real life, not in sim. I get that, but how is it to go from one car to another and kind of getting used to that and be competitive in that?
I think I would need... Well, talking about cars, I don't know. I never drove any other car yet, so I have no idea. Because I already did.
I think it'd probably be much the same as your analogy with the rigs. You just, every car's brake pedal is slightly different, and everything I drove didn't have ABS or anything. They were all old-fashioned, so it would just be a case of you could really dumb it down to get in the car, do 2-3 laps to get up to temperature and everything. And then one thing I used to do is on the back straight, say you would, let's pick 200 board, so you're nowhere near the braking zone, but no one's behind you. You'd go full brakes, a good hard brake, just to feel what the car's doing and kind of go, okay, that's where it's at. That's peak pressure. I don't want to do more than that. Mm-hmm. And then the next time you come around, and then you'd actually find your braking point, but you'd always do that almost in the middle of a straight. You would just go, oh, okay, that's how it works. And that's because every car is different. Like you say, some cars you need minimal pressure. You go up to F1 cars where the pedal doesn't move and it stops with 5G of force.
Oh my God. So I'd never experienced that. Never, ever.
Oh, I think the one thing that no one will ever appreciate until they get the opportunity to be taken around in an F1 car or drive, or even a 3000 car, is the G-force on your head.
I remember George Russell said that when he went from the Formula 2 to the Formula 1 and he braked for the first time in the Williams car, he said it was unimaginable. Like, imagine you're going from a already fast car to a Formula 1 and you get shocked. Imagine if you didn't even have that experience before.
Yeah,
like, it's literally astronaut stuff, right?
It is. I think in the peak of racing, or since I stopped racing, my neck has gone down 1.5 inches in size.
Oh my God.
Because I'm no longer training my neck. And it's simple as that. But to give you an example, I used to have an old crash helmet with, I think it was 5 kilos of lead either side.
Just to train your muscles.
Yeah, and basically, if you just... They've got version, but that's the most rudimentary one you can do. And go and do that and put a 5 kilo weight on the side of your head and just see what it feels like.
My cars had 1.7G on the cornering, like the GT86. And once we were doing a test day and we had to burn the fuel because we were like having less fuel for the quali the next day. And the team put like the full tank, and he was like, okay, Suellio, you have one job. You have to burn the fuel. Drive until we go to the red needle. And like at the last 30 minutes, I was like, are we there yet? Can I come back? Because like I was in a very bumpy track, and with 1.7G, I was already feeling it. I was like, oh my God, like it doesn't like stop falling, you know? And it's 1.7. Imagine like 3 times that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and actually, like tracks like Donington in an F1 car, because I think Donington was really bumpy at some point. I don't know how it is now.
It's got a couple of corners that have some bump. I think they might have done a bit of resurfacing work there, but it wasn't horrendous.
Yeah, because those cars have no give at all.
But creating the curves flat in an F1 car, yeah, that will get your attention.
And that's why I'm thinking I'm for sure racing again this year, and I need to work out. I need to feel like I said before, anything that makes you uncomfortable will take energy from your brain, will take energy from your focus. So if you're fit, you're going to be able to learn more. If you're not, you're going to spend a lot of time struggling to even drive. And that's completely counterproductive.
100%.
Yeah. I kind of feel when I went from, like, I'm not shaming the company that you're seated on right now, because it's not the same level of rig that I had a play seat. And when I, like the basic one, the cheapest one, and then when my rig is built by me and out of wood, but it was built by me. I'm a carpenter, so that's what I did, and I did it really sturdy. And when I had everything like I wanted, like the wheel really bolted into a stable platform and the seat comfortable and in the right place and everything, my performance level went just like 1,000% up. 1,000%, because you're not like struggling with anything. So that's probably what I tell most people is, if you want to be better, don't buy a new wheel or a new set of pedals until you have a good rig, because you are not actually thinking, because even if your wheel is just 1 millimeter off, you're just always thinking about that. The fuck's sake, why isn't it straight? I want it right in front of me and straight and everything all right. So that's actually, I think, one of the first things that I say. Let's get a stable platform. But I'm not shaming Playset. They have amazing rigs. Like, yours is amazing, man. It's so cool.
This one
so cool.
You know, my way to measure my equipment is whether I think or not about them. I do not think about my equipment. I do not think about my cockpit. I do not think about anything. Like, I'm just driving. So if I'm just flawlessly thinking about the driving, the technique, the car, I will complain about the front tires of the new Porsche Cup, but I will not even remotely think about my equipment, because it's working. It's perfect. And that's the goal, right? To not think about it. Yeah. And every time I have a lot of people like on my stream, hey, what do you think about the Logitech? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think about it. I'm just driving because it's good. It's good. Like, but the reason I don't think about it, it's like, it works. Exactly.
Yeah. I actually have my first direct drive wheel now. I made the jump in the end of last year. And
did you make it out of wood?
I thought about doing I talked with Earl about doing a rim out of wood in my CNC, and I still haven't let that go. I think someday I'll still do one with I have to choose the right wood, and because I actually have a wheel designed all ready for production.
Wow. Nice.
All made by me. All designed by me.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and the only, like in this weekend in the Daytona 24 hours, the only time that I thought about my equipment was, I don't know if it was even in the race or practice. It was just because going into the banking, when you go through the infield and then you go to the banking, when you go and you have and you're off of on the banking and off of on the flat stuff, and then you go up into that, I really felt that in the steering wheel, and it was awesome to feel like it's a real car, you know. That's the only time that I really thought about it. Other than what button does what, because I still haven't put the stickers on my rim. So I'm still not 100% on that, but yeah, the basics were there: pit limiter and flashy headlights for crappy GT3s, and that was it.
I remember because I used VR, I never really cared about stickers. I didn't have the time to look down because I wouldn't see anything anyways. So I started like memorizing the buttons. So for now, every wheel that I have, I just don't even put anything. It's just like all black buttons or just colored buttons, but I don't have any stickers because I don't look at it because I developed this not looking at skill from VR.
Yeah. That's the only reason I don't use VR. When I went...
Because you can't see the stickers?
Because I can't see my equipment. Why do I spend all of this money in such a nice wheel and then I cannot see it? No, I won't see my stuff. I won't see it.
Interesting.
Because I went from... I actually went from triples to a single monitor. And a 34-inch. Not a 49.
I remember when I moved from VR to triples, I started caring more about how my rig looked. And I felt like the immersion of VR was great, but I could not check my phone. And I could not and so as soon as I went to triples, I was like, okay, now I feel like a gamer. Now I shifted. I went down one step in immersion, but the comfort of having your own gaming rig at home and the RGB lights and everything that started counting a lot more.
Oh, and that's one thing that you don't have in real life. That eye tiredness of looking at a screen. Okay, you have G-forces. I'm not comparing the two. Okay, don't do that face, Earl.
you get a different form of tiredness. You get a different sort of concentration tiredness because as much as the software these days and the screens are fantastic, they can't replicate, especially when you get to the bigger stuff. Nothing will replicate what is actually like going down Le Mans in a LMP1. Not that I've been down it, but down Le Mans it's a different sort of eye fatigue.
Actually, one question: how does it feel to go through the woods at Spa? Because it kind of, I don't know. They almost talk like almost a tunnel.
I don't know. I might shatter illusions here and go, I'm not really looking at the trees. Because when you're driving, you're looking to the next corner, you're looking at the track, you're not... Or I was never one to drive around going, oh, that looks nice.
I've done that once.
Yeah. Did it involve a crash?
No, I was coaching in a radical. So I was in the passenger seat in real life. And like, we were at Mossport going at 200 per hour. And I was just looking up like, whoa. Like, it was just a moment where I was not paying attention to the driver. I was tired already. It was all day coaching. And then I took a moment to like appreciate the view. Like, Mossport is beautiful. Like, there's just trees everywhere. And like, I remember that moment. I took like a mental picture for me. Like, for the future, I will remember that moment where I was sitting in a radical at 200 per hour, just looking at the sky and the trees. It was nice. I was not driving.
Yeah, it was one of those things that never... looked around the circuits and looked at that stuff when you were there and you were on track walks or going around on scooters and stuff. Yeah, but driving, it was all about the black stuff in front of you and checking your mirrors. It wasn't about marshal posts, those sort of things, because obviously we didn't have all the lighting that you have these days where they have giant yellow for the flag signals. They have the giant light boards now, as opposed we had good old fashioned a guy waving a flag, so you had to memorize where they were, make note just so you didn't overtake in the wrong place. And so, but yeah, the rest of it didn't bother me. I wasn't too worried about what it looked like.
So
I think probably Daytona was only one of the few places where it was like, this looks awesome. Because you don't understand. Yeah, it's the banking is a whole different story in real life.
Oh yeah, imagine that. Because in the sim you feel nothing, right? In the sim, every time I'm driving, I just like hold it with one hand and start looking at the relative, and then start looking at something else, and then check my phone. Yeah,
it's basically straight.
The physical side of the banking's not that. In the prototypes, it wasn't that bad. What I found was weird was the way you looked, because you didn't. I don't know if you sort of look like that while you're driving, because that's where the corner is. It's weird. And once you get over that, the first time I did it, because I was like up onto the banking, and it's like, oh, fuck you! Yeah, you've got to look over there, which is
You're looking like up and left, right?
Yeah, it's just weird, because obviously coming from Europe, there's nothing really because our ovals here were flat, so it wasn't much of a. But yeah, the
Even
banking
was not that banked.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I think it's less than it was less than the tri-oval at Daytona. But yeah, the proper banking it's a whole nother story.
It must be even weirder in a closed cockpit, because you were doing open cockpits and prototypes. It must be even weirder in a closed cockpit car.
Yeah, I suppose you've just got a different reference point that you're looking out of the window or something like that. I don't know.
They must be able to do it because NASCAR go there and all the GT3s and
they can do it.
But yeah, we actually had a problem going into Daytona this weekend, because one of our drivers had to change his cockpit view, because with the FOV, which obviously you don't have in real life and all that stuff, when he got to the backing, he couldn't see like more than 10 meters in front of him, just because of the view, because he wanted to, like you say, to go up and left, but with his view, it was basically the ceiling of the car. So he couldn't see, and we had to bring the camera way down to try and see it.
Maybe what caused it was the
Wrong
neck
FOV.
motion option.
Oh.
No, the roll chassis and pitch chassis option. Because if you have that on, as soon as you get on the compression, it goes up the view.
Yeah. Oh.
So that was probably like, that sucks. Like if I drive in that rig for one corner, I would stop the car and go to the settings and change it, because it sucks.
I only have a little bit of stabilization, just the default one. That's the only thing I have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I tried in R Factor 2. Actually, when I actually met Earl, because I met Earl through R Factor, because I did one race for his previous team, and then on the second race that I did, it was Sebring, and the new version, because R Factor has a new version of Sebring, and R Factor by default has no head movement, like no stabilization.
So the world keeps shaking. Right?
Oh, I couldn't do it. I was getting sick from it, because it's all blurry. It's all blurry, because the car, like in real life, your head stabilizes, and your eyes do some sort of image.
They should learn with GoPro. GoPros have a stabilization that feels so natural. It's insane. Like you put the GoPro on the dash, and then you watch the video, and the car is going with the bumps and everything, but the horizon is perfect. It's like amazing. I think they should check a GoPro footage and then have those settings
No.
as
I actually
default.
could do it then, but not at that race. That race I used some sort of weird thing, but they actually have that built into the sim, but they just don't set it up properly from the box, like many things in RF2.
And a lot of people would complain about the sim because they would not know that this option is available.
Yeah.
You know,
I
if
even
you're totally
downloaded
new,
plugins, man. I went through this whole thing of downloading plugins and all that shit, and then it was just one option, and I just basically, you know what I did? I compared to iRacing, and I put it up to a thing that was basically the standard in iRacing, and that's a tip for the R Factor guys. Go to iRacing and see how they do shit and replicate in your sim, and it's people
watch
won't
GoPro
complain.
footages.
And watch GoPro footages. Okay, I'm completely lost on our interview. So yeah, then you turned pro and you actually won that F3 overall. And what was the Porsche Cup thing that you did with the old Porsche?
That was much later. Because so the big change in my sim racing career was my girlfriend's mom. We were having dinner and I mentioned that I was champion in the Formula 3 in this virtual racing thing, blah blah blah, and that I was accepted to go to Montreal, Canada to do my master's degree, but I needed to get some money to pay the tuition. So she didn't even think about it. She was like, well, then start teaching this. You're good at this. Start teaching. And I was like, that could be a nice thing. So 2 days later, I go to iRacing forum and I say, hey guys, I was champion in the Formula 3 season. I know what I'm doing and I need money to pay my tuition. So I'm offering coaching for $20 an hour. If you guys want to help me out, I can help you go faster, 1 hour, blah, blah. And then that's where it all started. One guy, okay, I want to do coaching with you. And then I didn't even know how to help him. So let's go to Discord, share your screen. I'm just going to watch you drive. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's doing everything wrong. It's all right, I know what to tell him. So I started talking about what he could improve. And he found 2 seconds. And I was like, it's easy. For me, it was like, wow, I can do this. And then I asked him to write a review on that same post on not Instagram, on iRacing forum. And then from there, a second guy came, went, commented, third, fourth. And then a month later, I had a full agenda. I was doing 10, 15 sessions for $20 an hour. And for me back then, that was a lot of money because I lived in Brazil. And the dollar is R$5 there. So that's how it all started. And for me, it was, I didn't need to learn how to coach. I was just good at it. I found out that I was really good at coaching, way better than driving. And that is still true to this day. And then from there, I found my passion. So I started coaching, and I developed methods, and I started to figure out patterns in their driving. So I started to write down these patterns, and then the way I would describe, I needed to create some new concepts, new terms to teach these drivers. And then when I moved to Montreal, I was coaching hardcore, all 25 sessions a week and stuff. And I realized that I needed more iRating to have a better image as a coach. So I needed to drive well, but it was all focused on the coaching side. I didn't want to drive better to drive better. I wanted to drive better to validate my coaching career. And then that's when, so back then this was around 5K rating. And then Driver 61 launched a tryout phase for new teachers. And I wanted to try that, but I had to drive and then describe as if I'm teaching that combo. And I had to drive a Skip Barber, a Porsche GT4, and a Formula 3. I was very fast with the Formula 3, so I started spending time with the Porsche and the Skip Barber. So I hired a coach to help me going faster so I could become a better coach. And then that's where I clicked and my iRating went straight from 5 to 7K. 3-4 weeks. It just went up very quickly because I really got that. I was practicing so hard for the Driver 61 tryouts that increased my own my own driving technique. And because of that 7K iRating, I was picked up on a list by a real life driver in a VCO event where they paired a sim racer with a pro driver. And the pro driver that chose me only because of my rating. The guy did not know me. So my rating enabled me to be on that list. And then the guy picked me without even knowing where I was from, because back then I had like the Brazilian flag. And then after we talked and we started like practicing, I realized that he was Canadian and I was living in Canada. And we became good friends. And many months later, he invited me to the Porsche Cup, Porsche Canada series. So like, you know, it's all connected, like it all goes back to kind of like my girlfriend's mom saying, why don't you teach? Like as if it's nothing, just a light idea in a dinner, you know? And then after that, well, it's history, you know, like I was champion in Porsche Canada, and then a real life team saw me, like spotted me because I was champion in that championship, but they put me in a real car. And then they wanted me to drive in real life, but I needed the money. So that's why I made the course. And so it's all like connected right now. So I'm basically, that's more or less where I am right now.
Yeah, and the course is a very nice topic to bring on. You kindly showed me the course before anyone had showed. No one knew about it, and I had access to it even before everyone. This was because, of course, I became your mod. I don't actually know why you made me your mod.
You were always there, and you knew what you were doing. You know, like you were always like taking care of the chat and everything.
Just tell everyone, behave.
Yeah.
And it's a very. I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't done it all. Because when I'm going to do it, I want to have time to do it, and life has not been very kind for that. But it's certainly very good because I do think that I would prefer coaching, just because I kind of know, because we're both musicians, actually. We have that in common as well. And I teach music as well, so I kind of know how that process works and how to take advantage of that. But the course is very good because you always have the information there, and you can go at your own pace and really try stuff out and do the sim racing thing of picking up a topic and practice for 500 hours if you want. I'm exaggerating, but. And the other thing that's very good, your like support in your Discord for the course is very, very good. I have to say, anytime that someone has a question, even if it's a little one, you always answer, even with your tight schedule right now. So it's very good. And we actually have a coupon code for your course in the description. It's Bump Draft 10 Pray, and all, not just the symbol, but and the word Pray, 30. And you have 30% discount on Suellio, and you will support him basically, because he actually lives on this right now. So
all the money goes to racing, so you're pretty much investing in racing content.
And learning, and you'll learn a lot, because you go into very much detail, and you're actually one of the most generous with your knowledge, I think, from all of the coaches, because you have a very good Instagram account where you do some very good videos actually explaining a lot of stuff for free. And you're very generous on your streams, as few as you do now. But you're very. You used to do the setup work live on Twitch. I always found that amazing, and recording the videos that you did for majors there, it was just hilarious. I was messing up your videos for majors. Majors must have been a little bit annoyed with you that you just left your hour.
It were definitely the most dynamic videos, and people enjoy that. People enjoy that movement,
Yeah, and you're actually very, very clever on that part. You're actually very clever on that part. So yeah, go check that. I can definitely recommend it. I'm not saying I did it all, but I can definitely recommend it and recommend his classes. You were generous enough when last year we did a kind of Suellio Academy car for Bathurst that's coming right now, and with 3 of your mods we did a race together, and you were kind enough of inviting us to do one. It was like a group coach session for just specifically for
the
workshop, and it was like, oh man, this is I think it actually helped me for the rest of the year, because many of that stuff that you talked about on that on that workshop, I actually now apply it without thinking about it. Like all of that compression of the car and all that stuff that you talked a lot about, because Mount Panorama is like so dynamic with that stuff, that I actually use it now without actually thinking. And sometimes in our team, when someone talks, so like, how do you do that corner? When people that are just a little bit slower than me or less experienced than me, and I think a little bit, and then oh yes, it's what Suellio taught me on that workshop. That's a real testament. So to what it was like 30 or 1 hour workshop. I
think it was a 1 hour workshop.
Yeah.
With Q&A. I remember that was interesting, because like that all surged from a coaching session. I was doing a coaching session in prep for the 12 hours, and I just figured out a way to describe the elevation changes and to break them down into 4 to one student, and he was crazy about it. He was obsessed about it. He was writing reviews and sending messages to everyone and posting. Like, this guy, like, he taught me how, like, I've been struggling with this track for like 4 years, and like in one coaching session, this guy finds like 2 seconds per lap for me. Like, he was crazy, because like he really understood. Like, he clicked, and I was like, okay, wow, that is actually valuable. So I'm gonna try to make a workshop out of it. So I did a workshop with 15 people where I would explain exactly what I explained to him to everyone, and we had many workshops. Like in 1 week, awesome. We had 3 or 4 that were sold out, and a lot of people just like watching, and everyone was applauding at the end, like, because like it was just a lucky way that I found to explain Bathurst, and awesome, that made all the difference.
I had never thought about when you go to the top of the hill and then you start to come down the hill, you have that, you do that really fast left-hander, and then you have that going downhill, right, left, right, and then the left. And the way that he explains the load of the car on the suspension, and more brake pressure and less brake pressure and all that stuff, it was game-changing for me. Really game-changing. Nice. Really, it was awesome. And now I have a question for all. Do you actually, in real life, did you ever took that into account, like suspension load and having more grip and less grip, or were just your gut feeling and you just had it?
The suspension loading, yes, in certain cars. Probably the only one that I really drove like that was the TWR Tuscan, so it was very wallowy. Yeah. But the sports car side of things and the bigger cars, the suspension travel isn't as
pronounced.
Yeah. You know it's moving. You can feel it, but it's not enough where you can make that much of a difference with it. because you're braking so late anyway.
Yeah,
and it's almost like you can do these things without thinking about it, right? Because you're feeling everything.
Yeah, I mean, so when I started racing, this will upset both of you, or you won't believe it. But when I first started racing, so this would be mid-90s, I wasn't allowed to look at the data.
Allowed?
So the engineer who was in, because it was the family team, but my engineer, who is very old school guy, wouldn't let me look at the data. So basically, we would do the session, and you'd come in and you'd explain old school piece of paper, track map, and like you say, you write down what the car's doing on every corner. And they would make any changes they think they need to make. Then you go out for the next session. You come in mid-session and say, car's doing this, it's doing that. And then they would make changes, and you go out and come back. How does it feel? You didn't know what lap times you were doing. None of that. It was this literally. It was all about
feel
what the car is doing. I said you can sit there looking at you can sit there looking at a laptop all night. It's not going to make you faster because you're just starting. You need to. So for the first year, that's it. It was just driving and feel. So like you say, it gets to the point that 15 years down the line, you just know it's doing it. You don't have to articulate it because it's just there. It's muscle memory, but not muscle memory.
To some extent, I actually like that. I like that.
It's too much information.
You work on your feel.
If you don't know.
Exactly, you work on your feel and the most structural parts of your technique before getting into details. Because, I mean, I understand that.
And it was pretty much my engineer. It was old guard, old school way, and it's like, this is how we always did it. This is what you're doing, and it worked for me. I'm not going to say it was a bad thing. I think it worked well. Because I've always said the one thing with data is you can sit and look at the Motec all day long and you can tell people you need to brake 2 meters later there. It's a whole different thing to go out on a track and actually do it. Mm-hmm. That's the bit sometimes people spend far too much time on data, on stuff that they're not capable of. It would be like me now, because I'm still way too new to iRacing and everything. It would like me taking Suellio's Motec and going, right, I need to do this. And you're taking 2 progressional levels that are I can't see the screen, so it's so different that it's not sensible. You know, you're not actually going to learn from it. You need to, like you said, you need to race with faster people, but not unrealistically faster than you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, something achievable, let's say. In the near future, let's say.
And you achieve that goal, and then you decrease the lap time a bit more, and then you pick a new goal. You don't try to find all the time and be on lap record pace in your first hour of having a coach, for example, because that doesn't happen. You slowly, small mountains, and just keep going and going.
It's funny that, when I said I figured out I'm a good coach, well, actually, I had experiences before with music that allowed me to understand how brain works and how much information someone is able to process. I remember my first piano lesson that I gave to a girlfriend back then. I was a good pianist. She played the flute, and after the lesson, she was like, "No, you just gave me too much information. I'm completely lost right now." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. About how difficult it would be for her. It's not just how much I know about it. It's how much she is going to be able to learn and process from that hour." And so I never forgot that. Now I do not overwhelm the student unless he wants to take notes, to record the session, and to go through it after so he can organize it. But if it's just a normal session, I limit it to 2-3 basic things. And sometimes I want the driver to change a thing that I see in telemetry, but I don't tell that straight away. I tell him to look at one place and think about this and imagine this, and I'm just codifying it in. I don't know if codifying exists as a word. I'm creating a code, a message, and the driver processes the metaphor, the analogy. He tries something, feeling or thinking about that, and then I see the change in the telemetry. So I prefer to do that because I go for the root causes of the issue. I go for the core of what is causing that output on the telemetry. And that's difficult in a way. You have to figure out like how it works, what are the steps that our brain takes until we get to that 2-3% change in the telemetry.
Yeah, and everyone's different.
That was what I was going to say. And that's my experience teaching music. Every student is different, and you have to sort of you have to adapt yourself to your students. So I don't treat students the same way, and then I might have students that are more analytical and practice more, and just by sheer will of practicing get there. And there are some that are, let's say, a little bit lazier or something like that, and have a little bit, I don't like the word talent, to be honest, but have more, I don't know what to say in English, predisposition to, or I don't know, just get there more naturally until a certain point, because I do think that from a certain point on you cannot get without practice.
Oh yeah, and there's one thing that I always say: it's always 2% new information, 98% practice. Always.
Oh, I like put on the 95% practice on the music. I always tell that.
If you hire me to be like with you 4 hours per day, you're just going to be wasting your money.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that, I'm just going to be like, okay, try it again. Okay, now try it again. Now try it again. Now try it again. Now try it again. I would be just guiding, not coaching. Yeah, so that's the same thing. That's something else that I learned from music. My teachers, they would sometimes skip a lesson, skip stuff because they knew that I just needed to
practice.
I needed more time.
Yeah.
Needed more time to practice it.
And then you're talking about the amount of information that you give your students. So that sometimes students think that they want this certain amount of information, but they are really not ready for that certain amount of information. And I don't have that thing of recording and then looking at it later, because I'm teaching like face on face with students. But it's like knowing how much information and what information they need to go from here to here. It's always a valuable part of teaching something. So yeah, and I'm just talking about music now, not talking about
honestly, man,
I think it's comparable.
Dude,
to things.
It's the same thing. Like, I think it comes down to physics, to the way your brain works and information. Like, we can probably overlap advice, good practices, good routines, or good notions of both the way the brain works and the way physics works and the way of efficiency. Efficiency is a great word. Like, that we can overlap music and racing and volleyball and tennis and chess. Like, there are so many like things in common on anything that requires focus, effort, learning, repetition, technique. And I think also that's kind of my advantage as a coach, because I have a master's degree in piano and I'm obsessed about technique. I was thinking about writing a book on technique for piano. And now I'm writing a book for technique and racing, and it's not too different. I swear. It's like some chapters there, if a pianist reads, they will understand, and they will say, oh man, I have to do that in my practice. Even if they don't know it's a racing book.
Yeah. I use so much stuff from music, what I've learned in music, just in everything that I do, and sim racing is one of them. One of the things is pitch. Racing pitch is amazing because like in sim racing, there's pitch in everything. There's pitch in revs, there's pitch in tires, there's pitch in everything.
Tires under braking.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I don't enjoy. Let's shit talk about Star Factor a little bit more. The new sound engine is bullshit because I cannot hear anything about what's happening with the car. And I admit that it might be like that in real life, but you really need more information in sim racing, in my opinion, just to. And I'm not just talking about force feedback. I'm talking about everything that is going on with the car. And I'm very sensitive to sound in sim racing because I do hear. I'm a music producer as well, so I'm sensitive to different frequencies, more bass, less bass, and all that stuff. So it can trip me up a little bit if the sound is not comfortable for me. So I take all this stuff from music that maybe the majority of people don't take and just think reverb. Oh, that's good. No, that's not just good for me. I take so much information from sound, just sound alone. That I'm always taking very good care of that and have good sound. For me, it's key. Let's say, and it might not be for some other people. So let's skip ahead a little bit. We might have to do a follow-up podcast on this because I feel like we left so much out of because we've gone on to these rambles, and for people who hear the podcast might be used to it because me and Earl, no, we don't go on. We don't go off topic.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit. And then we look to the watch and let's talk for 30 minutes on this. Just a quick podcast. 1 hour and a half later, we're still talking about the same shit.
1 hour and a half later. So for an introduction here, tell me a little bit about your...
So yeah, let's talk what you're doing now and what's your future plans, because I think we have an announcement to make here. Or at least I bullied you into doing the announcement.
Yeah, so... Oh man, right now it's all about time management. Like I have dude, I have like a little app on my phone where I take ideas or things that I had an idea for a reel on Instagram, right? So it's a 15-second video. The topic is going to be about this. Like I'm in the shower and like, oh, a reel about that. Boom. So I take my phone and I write it down. And then I start like, my idea is to have nothing on this because I write it down. I go to the PC and I try to clean it to do it already. So I can erase it from my tarefas, from my things to do.
Tasks.
Tasks, exactly. And then this is how it is right now. These are all ideas, content, chapters on my book, episodes for the podcast, episodes for my YouTube stuff, and coaching sessions to edit, to post. Just any idea is there. And I wish I could have 48 hours per day to do it. Because right now, since I woke up, I am working. I'm reading Ultimate Speed Secrets right now from Ross Bentley to use as a... Yeah, it's a good one. To use as a reference for my book. I'm basically studying every other motorsports book to understand their structure, to understand what topics I should or should not talk about on my book. Writing a book is a 2-year minimum thing. And I am taking my time because I want it to be good. I want it to be like reference. So I'm doing that, and I have to write it down. So I take 1 hour to write down 800, 1,000 words, which is not a lot. So I'm reading, I'm doing that, and then I'm editing, but I have to practice because I have a league race. It's like a lot of stuff, but I will try to summarize what I'm doing right now. I'm doing Porsche Canada series. The qualifying session starts next week, the qualifying stage, and then the championship will be around 3 months. I'm also participating in a Brazilian league called Koi Porsche Cup, something like that, from IRB, which has like the best drivers in Brazil. So that's helping me a lot. I'm trying to stream on Twitch, practicing with the Porsche Cup and trying to go to 9K to be able to prepare myself both for the league and for the Porsche Canada series. And I am looking for sponsors for my real life motorsports season. I'm going to race in the same championship that I did last year, and this time I hopefully will be more competitive. So this is more or less what I'm doing. Of course, there's coaching. So right after this here, I'm going to go coach. There's like everything is happening at the same time, and like that's the thing for me. The most difficult thing is being able to do everything, like because I have 7 plans for a day and I'm able to do 4 or 5, so I start like stacking up that list that you just saw on my phone. So yeah, I'm coaching, I'm writing my book, I'm still writing lessons for the course, I'm still creating content for Instagram, but now I'm also doing a podcast. Still not released, but I'm hopefully doing probably like an episode per week or so. Let's see how it's gonna be, if I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm also creating now more and more videos on YouTube because I want to have a bigger long-term long format content platform that I don't have. I'm stuck with Instagram for now. And that's it. And I'm trying to drive well, which is the last priority.
Many things to do. And we actually are going to give you a little bit of a snippet of what you can actually expect in the podcast, because I'm trying to help Suellio with this, and it's very good. So bear in mind, this is unedited, like really unedited. Still some stuff to do. I still have some suggestions to give to Suellio. We're still talking about this in the background, but it's just a little bit of a snippet of what you can expect.
Welcome to the Drive to Win podcast. This is the very first episode. This is the first time I press record. For this first episode, I'm just going to introduce a little bit of what this podcast is going to be. First of all, I'm going to talk a lot about driving technique. As you guys may already know, I'm obsessed about racing technique. I'm obsessed about how to get faster and how to, just get better at your hobby or at your career. For this first episode, actually, it's funny that 2023 is just starting and I am quite obsessed with one word called efficiency. I've been practicing right now with a new teammate. I just joined a new team called Texaco Esports by Tony Canaan. And one of the drivers there, Gustavo Ariel, he is one of the best drivers in the world. By the time I'm recording this podcast...
Okay, I don't know if you wanted every information of that part on here, but yeah, that's a little bit of a snippet, and it's actually 17 minutes about that, and it's very good. I'm lucky one. I've listened to it all. So yeah, that's going to be a very nice project for you, I think. And let's see where this goes. You have your, you have full support of the Bump Draft and Pray family, let's say, for anything that you need and you want to do in the podcasting world. Us being
thank you so much, man.
Magnets of we're really big. Don't go look at our numbers, but we're really big. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. You're always invited to come. If you I like to give the invitations live so that you cannot say that I didn't invite you. You're very welcome to come whenever you want, and we're probably going to need a part 2 of the interview because I feel there's some stuff that we didn't talk about in very much detail. And you're welcome to come to our very fun F1 reviews and motorsports reviews, because I know that you are a racing fan as well, and Formula 1 fan as well. So you're always welcome to come and do whenever you want to do an episode with us and see how fun.
Thank you so much, man. I'm sure we're gonna schedule the episode 2 and then the 3 of our conversation, because we're gonna have more stuff to talk about still.
Yeah. And eventually we'll do all of that stuff. 2 hours in, and it feels like we haven't really even started. So you guys can all expect that. So again, thank you, Suellio. You can find him, basically his name's Suellio Almeida. You can find him everywhere. You have his links in the show notes. You always I want to remind you that you have a coupon, a discount code for his method, for his what do you call it?
The motor racing checklist.
Yeah, motor racing checklist. That it's amazing. You have step by step on what he feels it's important for you to improve your driving. He also has a Discord. Probably is in your website, the link to Discord, because Discord is weird with the links. It's all numbers and letters, so I can actually add in the show notes an invite link for that. So yeah, thank you very much for coming and being with us. Thank you to Earl as well, my co-host. Thank you, my Paul partner, like me. Getting as well. Annoying young Brazilian, handsome Brazilian, now racing driver. Let's call him just not sim racer, but racing driver. Annoying. So you can find us, the podcast, at Pump Draft Pray in every podcast app and at every social media and all that stuff. If you want to email us, bdappodcast@gmail.com. That's the way to find us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Pump Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.